My name is Ryan Beason. I'm the two-time consecutive Golden North Salmon Derby winner. First year I won, I believe, was 2002. And the second year I won was 2003, 2 years in a row. Going back to the first year, this was one of the first derbies I fished. My dad was a commercial fisherman, so most of the time he missed the derbies. From what I can remember is the night before the derby he was up until about midnight working on the boat. We had engine problems, didn't know if we were going to go fishing or not. Luckily, got the boat in working condition, went out the next morning, went down to our, I guess it's considered our secret spot now. I'm sure many people know the exact location. But went down there, fishing was okay, nothing spectacular. And then all of a sudden, we get a double header. I grab my rod and my dad grabs his rod. My rod goes deep, think it's a halibut. His rod goes out, taking line, think it's a big one. He fights his fish for a few minutes, eventually loses it. He is pretty upset. We thought it was a big one. I start reeling my rod up, thinking it's a halibut. It starts to act a little different. Get it close to the boat, and we see that it's a massive king salmon. Things changed a little bit. I got pretty excited, got the net together, netted the fish. Wasn't much of a fight, just luckily came into the boat pretty quick. Caught the fish, didn't realize how big it was. We were excited, obviously, didn't know if it was a derby winner, didn't know nothing. So we kept fishing for a couple more hours, nothing happened. We decided we better turn this fish in, it's a big one. We go to start the engine up and take off, the main engine quits. So we're broke down 2-3 hours from town. We start the kicker up, get the kicker going, start putting to town. Nobody knows we have a big fish on board. We were the only boat there at the time. People are all feeling bad for us, but they don't know the true story that we have a big king salmon on board. So 2.5, 3 hours later, we get to the dock, weigh the fish. I believe the first year was 33.9 pounds. Pretty excited. I believe that was the only day that the derby we fished that year. My dad had to leave that night to go commercial fishing. So I waited around all weekend long, and it held up, and I won the derby. Luckily, I was pretty excited, the whole family was. I guess moving on to the second year of the derby, a little more pressure. Obviously, you dream of winning the derby 2 times. I mean, whoever knows if it's a reality or not, but of course it's the thought you think of. So the second year of the derby, 2003, I believe, we get everything ready, everything's going smooth, get our tickets validated that morning and start heading down to our so-called secret spot. But the closer we get to the spot, the rougher and rougher it gets. Probably 4 to 5 foot seas, but we were determined to get to our spot. I remember one time the gas can for our kicker flipped upside down going down, so it was nasty weather. Finally get to the spot. In this year, of course, my dad was saying, it's my year to win the derby. You're not going to catch the big one. So his rod was a little deeper than mine, and he'd been catching the king salmon all morning long. I've been catching a few cohos, no kings, and he needed to change his bait out. So he said, you drop your rod down to my depth here. Dropped it down, and no sooner later than my rod took off. It was a massive king salmon. I started fighting it. It was a good fight. Took lots of line. I remember eventually getting close to the boat. We noticed it was barely hooked. I mean, barely hooked. So my dad went to net it. The boat rolled on its side. He missed the net. The fish took off, and I've never heard a grown man scream like a little girl in my life that he lost a derby winning king. Somehow the fish stayed hooked, came back to the boat, and we noticed that the second barb had hooked the fish even better, and it was hooked really good. Netted the fish. We knew it was another big one. In that year, we took off immediately to go weigh the fish in. Got back to town, put the fish on the scale, and it went to 33.9, the exact same weight as the year before, to the 10th of an ounce. Then it went up to 34, so they crossed it off and put 34 pounds as the weight. So they were 1/10 of an ounce difference in weight. It was quite the experience. It put us directly on the radio. We were talking to all the radio personalities. It was my dad called it deja vu. I mean, what were the chances of catching literally the same size fish in the exact same spot first morning of the Derby 1 year later? We couldn't have asked for anything better. The fish held up that year. There was a few close other competitors that were close, but luckily it held up, and I was pretty happy. And the Derby winning money for each of those years, I believe, was $15,000 per year. And my mother, being the smart one, put that money directly into a college fund and helped pay for a significant portion of my college. In addition, I also received one of the territorial sportsman scholarships. I was awarded that my senior year of high school, so that was another big contribution to my college fund, and helped pay, put me through school. And now that I've come back to Juneau and living here, I'm also currently on the territorial sportsman board, and I'm trying to help out in any way that I can.